Picking up Data's mom on our way to the Polynesian fuck planet. It's V'ger Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
And I'll talk Trek even though your other friends don't want to. Your co-host, Peter.
Peter, before we
You picked up on Data's mom, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was going to surprise you when I started calling her that, but...
Data's mom's got it going on, man.
Yeah, once Data's mom, always Data's mom.
On non-mom topics, there is our Patreon, which I am mentioning because we just put content on it recently. We decided to try something a little different, and instead of doing like a structured episodic review of something where we really take the time to, discuss what we're going to review in advance and we edit it and all of that, it does take a lot of time to do extra episodes fit into our schedule, so we only get one out every few months. We figured we would do a less structured sort of just chit-chat review of Stranger Things, since we had both watched it. And I went to put it up, but didn't really edit it, just as to say, hey, if you're a fan of our work and you like hearing us talk about stuff, here you go. So if you are on our Patreon and you like that sort of thing, let us know, because we're considering we could do more if this is okay. So if quantity is more than editing quality to you, the humble Patreon listener, do let us know. And in addition, I wanted everyone to know that after we are done with season 1 of Enterprise, which is coming soon, believe it or not, a few weeks here, we'll do our usual rip at the end of that, and then our intention is actually to do a special episode where we're going to discuss Voyager once again, but Voyager Season 8, the Voyager Season 8 podcast, I guess multimedia project at this point by Jonathan Morris, who has become a friend of the pod, and we're going to talk to him about that project, why he started it, and the direction he's going with it. And I know you started listening to it too.
I'm current.
Yeah,
I think what's the last one he put out?
5.
Was that a little taste of Paris or something?
Yeah, that's the one where he goes to, because he asked me about cities in Ohio because of Chakotay's cousin is supposed to be from Ohio, and that shows up in
Toledo. Cyrus, Akron. There's a lot of drug activity in Akron.
Northwest Ohio is basically worst Ohio.
Is it? I think you start getting down on that Kentucky border. There's a lot of...
Hey, listen, I can see Kentucky from my house.
There's nice parts of that border, but there's some real methy areas as well.
One thing in which there is no methamphetamines, only vibes, is Strange New Worlds. And you actually started watching it now that it's over.
Yeah, so, God, man, it's rough watching TV in the summer because I want to be outside doing stuff with the kids and soaking in the nice, good weather before frozen hell comes for us. But we knocked out Strange New Worlds, and then we binged The Boys Season 3, which should be Did you watch it?
I have not watched Boys Season 3 yet. I haven't watched Count Up on anything Amazon yet.
If you watch that, then that'll be the next one for Patreon chit chat. Caught up on Better Call Saul, and then we got into Strange New Worlds. So I've watched one episode so far. I'm going to go with my wife's assessment because I thought it was correct, and it is boring. And I was feeling a little down on it. It looked good, but it was just this real simple plot. They moved very quickly. I think there was a lot of convenience and jumping from one thing to another. And then I kind of stopped myself in my criticism. And I said, let me just enjoy the fact that this was a happy story with nothing sinister. It was simplistic and it was a little overly convenient, but that is a lot of classic Star Trek, and it's what I've been asking for. And there was some cool character stuff, and it felt good for it just to be everything above the table, feel good episode of Trek.
It's kind of amazing in that it exists, and also that it hasn't existed in some time, right? That pilot is a nice thesis statement of the show, in my opinion. It is very much what the rest of the show feels like. I would say the show's worst sin is that it is playing it so safe that it calling it boring, I think, is a relatively defensible thing to do. But a lot of Trek is kind of like that, right? Like there it is a slower show. It is not trying to do anything super bold a lot of the
God, can you
time.
even look at that as a pilot? So let's. I don't know, what are we in 5 minutes here. So
Yeah.
let's dedicate some time to this. In the pantheon of first episodes of Star Trek, I'll put it at the fucking top, man. I'll go ahead and say it displaced Broken Bow. Certainly better than Encounter at
Counter at Farpoint is fucking boring as shit. There's a lot that does not happen.
They had a lot on their plate. They had to establish the 24th century, and basically,
They had to establish Q. They had to establish like a
yeah,
lot.
that was a doozy. I can't even remember what the first episode of Discovery. And again, my wife and I enjoyed the first season of Discovery specifically because Lorca. But so much of Strange New Worlds was clearly telegraphed. Not clear. It was built and it was launched in Discovery season 2. That it doesn't really feel like you're starting a new show. You're going back to things that were already existing, but now, there's some new faces and some chairs and some radical haircuts.
Pike had had some time to be established as a character, and Anson Mount in particular as an actor was able to kind of figure out what this guy is supposed to be using Discovery as a way to do so. Definitely helped it feel a little bit more ready to go.
I mean, the entire crux of that first episode, which is Pike being traumatized by seeing his own miserable future, was all explicitly laid out in Discovery season 2. So, this is all stuff that got its legs, and there were multiple episodes to review that material and really give them a chance. So, yeah, it was kind of a boring episode, but in the catalog of the first episode of the Star Trek series, I will take boring over fucking awful and shitty the way that Voyager was, and a couple of these other guys.
Yeah, you compare it to Caretaker, it's really no question which one's better. Pike goes out there, he gives a banger of his speech, unites a whole alien planet behind him. Like, this is the sort of shit you show up for. And, I hope you continue to watch the show. If you do, I think we might eventually venture out there with maybe a review. I imagine we won't be able to help ourselves if you
I know you
have.
said season or episode 2 is the worst, and then hopefully it'll go
To
up from
me,
there.
I mean, some people do like it. I think it's the worst because it's the worst written, and I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Episode 2 reveals the show's worst trait, which is its writers are so on the fucking nose with things that they cannot trust their audience. And they get a little bit better, and depending on who's writing, is a little bit more maturity, a little bit more ability to sort of let the actors kind of figure things out in the performance, and those episodes tend to be better. But holy shit, like when it decides it wants to explain things to you, it gets really frustrating to watch. And
That was what we criticized. What was the Interman Can episode?
Detained.
Same deal there. You can't let me see, hey, that's Oppenheimer in Jetrel. No, we are talking specifically about this thing right here, and we're also going to have a hologram display of it on there. I'm going to make an assumption that you're not a fucking idiot and completely wrong, and that Strange New Worlds is, at the worst, pretty okay, right? If not, legit good Trek. And there's been a lot of people in our little community pages between the Facebook group and Discord that have shown acceptance, if not endorsement for it. And I haven't really seen anybody straight up like spraying venom about it.
I gave the series overall a B score.
Very generous for a season 1.
Yeah, I think it's probably the strongest season 1 of Trek ever.
So here is the incredible thing to me, right? Because this is something that is being produced. There's no one new involved in this.
Yeah, it's the same fucking people.
It is the same people that we have literally crucified and vilified and motherfucked for probably cumulative hours. Who we are ready to send to the fucking the Hague for war crimes levels of atrocities out of Picard.
More like the shoot, but okay. I'd send him to the shoot.
And then they can turn around and put out something that isn't just passable, but is good, bordering on pretty great. So the accomplishment there isn't that, hey, look, they did a great job in writing Strange New Worlds. It's revealing the writer's room gymnastics that it has taken to suppress the Star Trek that everybody wanted all along. The fucking money has been sitting there on the counter waiting for fans to come up and take it and say, yes, this is what I wanted. And you had, who was a good football team?
The Patriots.
You had the Patriots fucking defense there blocking this thing, willing to do whatever it takes to keep fans from getting what they wanted. And it wasn't until this fucking year that secret robot hideout, whatever, fine was like, all right, fine, just give them the goddamn thing. And voila, you've got something that almost everybody seems that they're able to get on board with.
It comes down, I think, sometimes to creator arrogance in that they don't want to produce the mass market thing that everyone wants. They want to create something bold and unique and has vision and that they'll get all of the good fucking articles in Variety about. And the problem is, of course, nobody actually wanted any of that. And the product degraded over time. It became a problem. And eventually, obviously, got to a point where someone told them, make the fucking show everyone wants. And they did. And they always could. And that is frustrating and worthy of perhaps you and I have a much longer discussion about. But there is something to unpack about the fact that they seem to have this in them the whole time.
Yeah, it's not impressive that you made something great. It's impressive that you went through the effort you did to not make that through two separate series, Picard and Discovery. Again, I still liked
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. If you don't like Lower Decks, fuck you.
I think like the Lower Decks writers though are the ones that understood
they're the
this
black
most
sheep.
of all.
Yeah,
they always understood this. They were making jokes about how much Discovery sucks on their show.
Yeah,
and like Jack Quaid going on Red Letter Media, I think says a lot because they were savage about Picard and they were not kind to Discovery either.
Mm-mm.
And Jack Quaid still went on that show. And that sends a message, right? That sends a message in the background to say, we know.
Mm-hmm.
We know this shit is dog shit, and we're sorry. Like, tell them, Jack. Tell them that we know. They put a fucking RLM joke into Lower Decks, like beat for beat.
Yeah,
like they know.
And it worked well. It was a great.
It was perfect.
I loved it.
You know what I also loved was this episode of Star Trek we watched. Could you tell me about what it was?
We're going into season 1, episode 23. That's crazy, man. 23 episodes into this. Like,
yeah,
it's almost scary. I mean, there's only 4 seasons. And when we did Voyager, I was like, man, this is just going to go on forever. And once we got to like season 6, I was like, oh shit. There's only 2 more of these left. And like, I'm like, fuck, man, we're down to 3 more seasons and we're done with this. Season 1, episode 23, Fallen Hero. This, according to the old Memory Alpha here, which is skimpy as always, first aired May 8th, 2002. Story by Rick Berman, Bran Braga, and Chris Black. Teleplay by Alan Cross, directed by Patrick Norris. I don't really recognize Cross, Black, or Norris.
I think Chris Black was actually a staff writer at this time for Enterprise. Yeah. So first 3 seasons, he was a staff writer. Supervising producer during the first season, co-executive producer for the second and the third. He, as a writer, touched on Rogue Planet, Fallen Hero, and an episode that hasn't played yet for season 1. So,
I was listening to Detained today, coming home from work, reminding me just how bad of a string of episodes that we have had to watch. Again, feeling the Enterprise burn. I keep trying to think back to the last episode we did, which was what? Cum Shot Hero. Just, I'm so sad you didn't use any of my...
Yeah, if only the people don't know how many titles we went through before. I'm like, Peter, this has to survive in the algorithm somehow. I can't
I
call
was
it the
really rooting for
Cheese-tacular.
Jizztacular. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought that was
I can't do it.
cum shot monster. Just a complete utter steaming fucking turd.
I mean, we had in a row Rogue Planet, Acquisition, Oasis, Detained, Vox Sola. That is a rough quartet of episodes to have watched. Fusion was good. That was the last time you and I kind of agreed that there was something that was pretty
And
good.
even Fusion had major
It
problems.
had problems. It had a lot of problems. And before that was Shuttlepod 1, which clearly was a point of division between us. So
I
really,
also think we should have renamed Quantum Flop a perfectly good waste of Al to go
yeah.
along with Odo. Because, I mean, you're just... This last stretch of Enterprise episodes has just been fucking throwing great guest stars in trash episodes.
This was a return to some more quality, though. This was the kind of like, it gives you a little bit more background on the Vulcans. It's, you've got a bit of an intrigue plot.
Some action.
You got some stuff going on here, and more importantly, no cum monsters, no reasonable jackbooted thugs making, fucking horse manure of your fucking writing.
Great villains for this one. A little Skeevian almost, I felt.
Yeah, had that vibe. Had that sort of bon vivant vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
What was interesting, though, was I forgot this episode began with a subplot that continues for several episodes, which is Enterprise trying to get to planet Fucktown.
Yeah, so let's get out our boomer humor, and I don't mean the baby or space boomers. This is going to be the Rick Berman baby boomer humor.
Let's
have T'Pol telling Trip and Archer they need to get laid. Wouldn't that be a yuck fest?
It definitely sounds like someone that is 42 in the year 2002 would think that's fucking funny. Like, nailed it.
We open up right where we always do, and that's indulging the Enterprise food budget. It's Trip, it's Archer, and it's T'Pol sitting around the dinner table, and Archer's doing a spit take. And it's just that. It's Archer reflecting that T'Pol just said, you guys seem like you're losing efficiency because everyone's
underfucked. Everyone's underfucked on this ship. You're filled with cum.
Probably because that monster was slathering over everybody.
If only they had linked that in. They said, listen, you guys got sucked in by that cum monster.
It filled your butthole up with all the cum.
And you
we gotta stop. I still feel filthy from
you need to get the cum out. So she's like, everyone on this ship needs to fuck, literally. So here's a planet you can go to called Risa. It is a planet filled with people who are down to fuck, and you should go.
It is the glory hole for the Alpha Quadrant.
It is literally the Polynesian island that you explorers much find, with all of the natives who are happy to be of service to you.
10 fingers per hand to jack you off. I mean, it was 12.
And so the episode is not about them getting to Risa, nor will the next episode. But yet there is this subplot. It is even noted in the Memory Alpha. They have it as the arc Journey to Risa, part 1 of 3 here. And an odd choice for them to have so much buildup for them to getting to the fuck planet. But I guess when you're trying to make this the sexy show, you're going to lean all the way in.
We get some good dialogue here that identifies that they have been out since the incident of Broken Bow 10 months now. Joe, can you do some quick space math? If we're on episode 23, how many incidents has that been per whatever?
Well, I mean, typically 8 months, that's going to be 16 pay periods. So they are above the Voyager rate of one space incident per pay period. They're above rate. They've got some doubles in there.
Well, they're doing it the first time.
When you're working for a startup, you have to know that you're going to be in the office a little bit more.
Yeah. You're going to run crunch time.
You're going to run into a little bit more space hazards. You want that cushy job. This is not for you.
So they float this Risa thing out for a while. Archer is convinced that it's time to give the crew a little bit of shore leave. They turn the ship around. They're going off for it. We get what I believe is probably an iconic picture of Trip in his little Hawaiian shirt, which everybody gives him shit about.
It's a great Hawaiian shirt, and everyone's a hater.
You,
Whatever. I'm right. You know I'm right. Shut the
I'm
fuck up.
pan the webcam over so I can see your closet, and you can go ahead and reveal to me that you actually own a copy of that shirt for yourself.
It is not an exact copy. It merely is an homage.
It's a couple sizes larger. I'm not Hollywood jacked.
Well, yeah. I mean, that goes without saying. I'm saying the pattern is more of an homage.
We are led to believe that somehow Archer is going to decide that he is not going to go down to the surface and enjoy the fun. That they want me to, for a minute, believe that this guy is half the captain that Jean-Luc Picard is, and going to try and study through summer break.
Even JLP in his prime is no match for fuck Planet. Let's be real.
Yeah, get that fucking belly shirt out with all that chest hair going. But they browbeat him. They go, "Come on, you can go down to the surface too." And just when Archer's acquiescing and saying, "All right, I'm going to go have a little bit of vacation as well," they get the emergency message from Starfleet.
Admiral Forrest has taken off his makeup that he had on last week when he, sicked the cum monster on Enterprise, and is back to being a normal admiral, and says, "Hey,
Just a normal crazy admiral.
Hey, John, listen, I need you to do me a solid. I need you to go to this fucking planet and pick up this ambassador from Vulcan. So this planet is called Mazar, and apparently this ambassador, who we'll find out is named Valar, has got to go. And it's got to go right now. And you're closer than the closest Vulcan ship, who will rendezvous with you on the way back. But hey, listen." It's one of those favors you do for your neighbors when you sometimes need their help too.
So, when's the last time we talked Vulcans? It would have been
Fusion.
And even at the end of that one, Starfleet had already done one good boy feat to get some good boy points to fix the incident of Pajam, and that was getting the councilman's cool. We liked him. I forget what his name was. Towel or something.
Yeah, the roly-poly Vulcan contacted his dad. Yeah.
Which, some good boy points there. And now there's this one. I would have liked if they would have said, we're almost back to being cool with these guys, and they're not asking about getting DePaul out anymore, but Archer puts up his, what I believe to be character defining. Anytime there's an ask of Archer, especially by somebody in a legitimate position to make an ask of Archer, he was trying to plant his heels and lean back and like my 2-year-old, just, "Hey, can you do this?" No, just instant pushback.
The stupidest trait they gave Archer was this pathological desire to just never help the Vulcans, despite the total illogic of it. And I get that the Vulcans can be dicks, and we've definitely seen a fair share of that in the show so far.
It's bigger than that, though, man. Jump back to Detained when Dean Stockwell's like, "Hey, let's cooperate, and I've got information." No, I don't like being, what do you say? My arm twisted. Was that what he called it? Arm twisting?
Coerced, whatever.
I don't like being strong armed. They're not putting you in a fucking electric chair and zapping your nipples with.
Yeah, they want to trade information with you about your worst fucking enemy. They want to
help wants you to repair a fucking damaged relationship because you YouTube leaked the secrets.
But eventually he gets over it and agrees. And Hoshi gives up her cabin for the ambassador.
So interesting design choice here that you sent. Unlike Voyager, Enterprise launched pretty much full crew complement. The fucking guns weren't installed because who needs those in the depths of space? But everything else was pretty much ready to go. And interesting that their exploration vehicle, and for all intents and purposes, their first real diplomatic ship, right, wouldn't have any sort of guest quarters whatsoever.
I like it as a detail to say all of the space is so economical that they could not afford to have a separate VIP quarters.
What if they had given what's her name, Lavar?
Valar, yeah.
Oh, Valar, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Data's mom. What if they've
Mhm.
given Data's mom Daniel's quarters with the big fucking security lock on it?
That was like a tiny, like that was like smaller than my dorm room with like a bunk bed in it, though. Like
Yeah,
I
but
do
there's
like this.
potentially cool future stuff in there to discover. Like she could have fallen into a fucking pocket realm or something.
Came back out with 8 centuries of Vulcan technology.
They should have taken Hoshi since she was vacating her quarters and put her with Daniel's old roommate that he hated. Wasn't that guy like clipping his toenails or something gross?
Nah, he just the quarters were messy because he researches his like chaos theory or something.
So again, this is the plot line I want, is that everybody fucking hates bunking with this guy, and that would have been like the first chance to reinforce that that guy's fucking miserable. Like, it's so good to be back in my normal cabin. That other guy, Daniel's old roommate, was a fucking pig.
I can see why Daniels pieced out via
I'd
time beam. He just didn't want to deal with it
rather
anymore.
get time fragged too than fucking go back and share a bunk with this dude.
So like T'Pol sets up that like we're gonna be very formal, no one's gonna talk to her. She's an ambassador, she's a big fucking deal. I really, want to make sure everything goes right for this. And when they arrive on the planet, the planet president, who, Archer did not get to beam down with a gun at his hip to talk to this guy, is to talk
They
to him
were
via,
new. They didn't
haven't
know the
gotten the
proper
chance to
way
do
of
that yet. They
the
know that
Starfleet way.
protocol.
They don't know the
Yeah.
Janeway yet.
They get a quick message, a little FaceTime action, like, hey, get your girl. In fact, we want you to get your girl so bad we're gonna literally like shove her in your face via shuttlecraft, then get out. And Archer's like, oh, this isn't a bit much. And that is when we finally get to meet Ambassador Villar.
Well, no. While that shuttlecraft's approaching, the planet president's like, by the way, you know why you're here, right? Because she's a criminal and she's getting kicked off. She was abusive position and criminal misconduct. Have some tea.
So when they finally bring her on, it is in fact Data's mom. So the actress playing Villar is named, oh god, it's Irish, Fanula Flanagan.
Look
I
at you. Like you're just straight off the streets of Safe Haven. Is that what it was called?
Fairhaven.
Fairhaven. There you go.
Well, but more notably, in terms of Star Trek, to I guess you and I, she also played the android version of Data's mom, or Doctor Soong's wife, Julia Taylor, and there was a classic episode where like Data finds out she's an android, but she doesn't know she's an android. And there's a hologram of his dad who's like, hey, don't tell her, she doesn't know. Whole thing. But that's her. Say she also played a brief role on DS9. So she is a veteran guest actress for Trek.
She gets on, and despite all of T'Pol's warning and preening as to how this luminary of the Vulcan diplomatic corps should be treated, she gets in and she's like, what's up, dudes? Let's shake hands. Let's hang out.
I do like how she awkwardly shakes hands because she doesn't quite understand it, but she like the way that she like windmills out her arm, as part of the motion to like show it's unfamiliar to her, but she's still very willing to shake everyone's hand because she knows that's like customary among humans, which she's a diplomat. It makes sense.
This is the third type of Vulcan we've met now. We've got the regular run-of-the-mill, boring, borderline dickhead Vulcans. We've got the Cenobite, emotional explorer Vulcans who are reintegrating their emotions and like real chill dudes. And now we have this very emotionally intelligent diplomat who, for whatever reason, even though she seems great around humans, is nowhere near Earth and makes all of the Vulcan diplomats on Earth look like dog shit.
I like that because Valar is supposed to be such a veteran of diplomacy that she said she's emotionally intelligent. she doesn't really act emotionally with like a huge broad range during the episode. She's pretty restrained, but she is clearly able to feel out emotions and show a bit more as a consequence, probably of her age and experience, right? That's they kind of gave that feeling off with how they decided to portray it.
I viewed it as a tool, as an active ability that she was using. No, because even in her conversations with DePaul, she seemed a lot more casual than anything
Yeah.
really led. So I don't think that was necessarily an act she was putting on. And it took me a while. I think ultimately, like, the big reveal was kind of boring.
Yeah,
Uh,
like a lot of Enterprise episodes, it just like kind of peters out at the end.
there was a lot of cool shit they could do. I thought for really the majority of this episode that she was going to turn out to be a family relation to T'Pol, and that's why T'Pol was so well versed on what this lady should
Yeah,
like,
it's like her
or
great
whatever.
aunt or something. Yeah,
That's why she felt this deep sense of shame when she's like, "Oh, you know, you did something bad and you've dishonored yourself," and blah blah blah. I was also feeling that, like, because she was so loose and fluid, like, was she another person that was in the process of rejecting the old ways of Vulcan and, like, getting in contact with her emotions or doing some other taboo to Vulcan things? But no, this is just good diplomacy. This is why she's one of the best.
as the show goes on and they continue to get deeper and deeper into like Vulcan background and mythos and do a lot of exploring on that, and a lot of their best work, particularly when they get into season 4, is about that. She embodies a kind of version of the Vulcans that I like, which is Vulcans never didn't have emotions. It's just that they had to learn to restrain them and compartmentalize them. And the ones that take it too far are the ones that become very rigid and very predictable. And the ones that have figured it out are the ones like Valar, where there's a balance here. Tapping into this and understanding this is not forbidden. It's just you have to be measured. And that's what she strikes me as, someone who's very measured and understanding how to integrate a certain level of her emotions into her activities, particularly as it pertains to the fact she's a professional diplomat and has been for a century, you know? So they bring her on. She's, talkative. She's friendly. She eats dinner with the crew, or eats dinner with the captain and Trip and T'Pol,
Very
and it
playful.
tells a joke. Basically tells Trip that he's inquiring about her age. And gets him to be defensive, and then it's like, don't worry, I'm kidding. Like, and gives off like, oh, she's like your favorite Vulcan grandma. This lady's great. Have her on all the time. This is fantastic. But also maybe she's a criminal. And they finally gets brought up, and she's like, I'm not going to offer a defense of what I'm accused of, which is the first sign that, like, of course, there's more to it, which we will find more about as the episode goes on. And dinner breaks up perhaps on a sour note because of the whole felonies thing.
So there's going to be this charade where basically the diplomat has a secret, but she is not going to let anybody in as to what the secret is. And she's going to dance around, hey, I've been accused of this stuff. Is it true or not? And she does a pretty good job deflecting on all of that.
And T'Pol's background is that basically Valar is like her childhood hero that, like, she sought out and spoke to when she was young, and it inspired her to, like, follow the career path she's on. So she's meeting her hero, as we will find out, and meeting her hero under circumstances in which she has been, accused of dishonorable crimes that will crush her career and give a black eye to Vulcan. And she's not thrilled by that. I like that. I like that they built that in. That this is important to her, and she reveals that this is disturbing.
Archer's got the throwaway line in there, never meet your heroes because you're not going to like what you see, blah, blah, blah. What I like about Valar is that despite how chummy and warm she is towards Archer and the rest of the crew of Enterprise, ultimately she does not trust these people.
Nope.
And
She's still a professional. She's still a fucking professional.
it isn't until basically the last 10 minutes of the episode where you really see the level of distrust, suspicion, and apprehension that she has for the humans. When she kind of lets her guard down a little bit and starts revealing some stuff to Paul. So I thought that really made all this kind of friendly banter and her ease of waltzing around the ship and really subverting a lot of expectations that Paul had established as to how this lady was going to act and want to be treated. We get a little deeper in the episode, and that is when Enterprise is approached by some, what are they called?
The Mazarites. So one of the Skeevian-looking motherfuckers rolls up in his ship and is like, yo, hey, what's up, fellow spaceman? I am a totally nondescript flying casualty spaceman. Can I have the old lady back? We want to question her more. To which
Did you recognize this guy?
I did not. This one I don't know.
This dude's one of the 37s.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't in a gimp suit. That's why I did not recognize him. This is part of. If you want me to recognize you from the 37s, you have to be.
That's why you weren't allowed to land on their homeworld and see any of those costly visual effects budgets. In fact,
Janeway told me they were great cities.
Oh, you heard that too? I heard that as well.
I heard that.
There's a t-shirt waiting to happen. No, I haven't been there, but Janeway says it's lovely. So they go, hey, you know what? On second thought, even though the president of the planet basically shoved her, like put her in a shuttle pod and shot her at you before, like the second you were in hailing distance, we already had her fucking coming up to dock. Turns out we did a little too fast, and she's got more crimes to answer for. So we're just going to go ahead and dock, and we can take her off your hands, and you can go about your way. Go over to Ryza and get your dick sucked. And then Archer's like, well, let me talk to my boss.
Yeah, seems sus. Gonna talk to my boss first.
Here's something I normally would never do. Usually when I'm faced with a plot element where talking to my boss would be reasonable, I forget that he even exists. But in this case, for the sake of the plot, I've had a change of heart.
I can see you resisting singing that every time it comes up.
I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
It hurts my feelings no one talked about it on the group.
That you belted out an entirely new version of the song.
I know.
Like, just off the cuff.
It wasn't off the cuff. I had detailed notes. That was very premeditated.
Even more of a reason why our fans let us down.
So he goes, let me put you on hold. I'm going to go call him. Hoshi's like, yeah, that dude's jamming the fuck out of the signal. And Archer's like, huh. So then this 37's dude just opens fire. And we're going to establish some good space combat canon here.
No phasers at warp. If you do that, you could blow your nacelles, destabilize the warp field. So they only have their shitty, known to not work torpedoes. Try that first.
And it's interesting too, because I always thought that photon torpedoes came about because they needed a way to engage other vessels in warp. So I figured that, phasers came before torpedoes, but clearly vice versa.
Eventually, because they do need to shoot these guys, they drop out of warp. They bust them across the chops a couple times and then peace out.
Fuck them up real good. I was proud of Enterprise. They hit him with the first volley, and then Director Patrick Norris is like, well, oh my God, that scene cost how much money? Yeah, second shot is going to be told to us by Archer from the comfort of his already built chair on the already built bridge.
CGI is money, my friends.
Which is also interesting, too, that Enterprise didn't just shoot back at those guys. Does Enterprise not have an aft torpedo launcher?
I do believe it does. It has an aft and forward torpedo launcher, 2 forward phaser cannons, and 1 aft cannon. So they just busted them across the chops with the aft cannon, and they were like, all right, let's get the fuck out of here. And after that, is when they have their initial kind of conversation with Valar, where you really start to understand what you've already detailed, which is there's not a lot of trust here. Whatever's going on, which has clearly become far more complex as a consequence of this action, she's not telling. Now, Archer takes the tactic of, I want you to tell me, no, there's something going on here. No, I'm going to go back to this planet and drop you the fuck back off unless you tell me. To which she says, I'm still not fucking telling you. And then he actually starts to go back. That's what was most interesting to me, was he didn't just threaten to do it, he actually followed through. He was going to drop this bitch right back off where he found her and be like, well, I'm getting shot at. I am disinterested in being an errand boy for the Vulcans to begin with. And if being an errand boy for the Vulcans is going to involve me getting my people killed, and you're not even giving me the common courtesy of knowing why, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, I'm taking you back.
Well,
I liked it. I like that he drew that line to say, yeah, I'll do the favor, but if it's going to start to get fucking complicated, you best at least tell me what's going on.
there's two things that Jonathan Archer's dick gets hard over. One is bleeding out of his mouth because he just got punched like concussion hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second is being a dick and taking his ball and going home, or doing something to fuck over the people that he's previously was helping. Jump back to Trucker Justice, where he tells Better Mayweather, well, we'll just go back over to the ship and I'm going to take all my shit right back. Fuck you. And I think that's why it's really been a while since he's been a dick to this caliber, is because the last time he pulled this shit, he got brought into a back alley and they tried to shoot him in the fucking head. And he was like, whoa, these dudes is real.
We almost got rolled in the local warehouse.
Yeah.
we need to be
Here's what I need. I need someone to recut that Trucker Justice episode and to like redub it with when keeping it real goes wrong. What Jonathan Archer didn't know was that Better Mayweather also keeps it real, but he keeps it realer. I disagree with the idea of turning around. Going back towards the planet seems to me like you're going to run into a lot more problems faster and endanger yourself to a greater degree. So if he was just going to go dump her back off, then why not give her to that ship? Going to the Vulcans, I think, really did seem like the more conservative and safer course of action. Ultimately, her decisions are kind of stupid too. Spoilers coming up here. The big secret is that there is deep-seated corruption in the government, that the Vulcans are getting themselves in the middle, and that basically space gangsters want to kill her, and she does not feel comfortable disclosing any of this, presumably because she's afraid that maybe somehow this fucking the only Earth ship out this deep is on the payroll, which
that is such a huge
dumb
plot hole to me. Yeah, that's such a huge plot hole to me that they left wide open and did not address it with so much of a whisper in this episode. We are led to believe that this highly professional and skilled diplomat came to the conclusion, after it was clear that violence was going to be required to deliver her to the Vulcans successfully, and that Enterprise was perfectly willing and capable of delivering that violence, as to win the captain, who categorically cannot possibly be involved in the matter of the investigation that this apparent corruption is about, by dint of being the captain of the only Earth ship that has ever been to that planet, and it was for 5 fucking minutes. Not to tell him what's going on. He is the only person I feel like you can tell and be assured. Like everyone on that ship, everyone on Enterprise, these people who can be trusted with this information, they are not involved, right? They're not involved. So I can tell them, listen, I'm trying to do good in the universe. Just get me back to the Vulcans. Pretty please. You like this, sometimes we do good things. That's what we're doing here.
Hey, tell me why they're after you. Well, I can look at your service record here and see that you've spent the past 10 months getting stuck on asteroids, digging your ancestors out of the fucking dirt over in terra firma, whatever.
Terra Nova, yeah.
Getting stuck in Dean Stockwell's concentration camp, fighting Ferengi, even though we don't know what that name. Yeah, you guys are just like space hillbillies poking around, jumping from Walmart to Walmart. I'm pretty sure you're not caught up with the fucking Narshada Hut Syndicate or whatever the fuck the 37s represents here. Yeah, they're trying to kill me because I'm the star witness and I'm gonna like fucking prosecute. That's why they're shooting at us.
Just a huge
Even to the point where it's like, okay, well, maybe we're jumping forward too much here, but like,
no, like this is where I like that Archer said, "Fuck you! If you're not going to tell me, I'm going to dump you off." Like that's just a sensible thing for him to consider doing, and I'm glad that like that is his impulse as a character in this circumstance to say, "No, I'm not going to endanger the life of my whole crew on you not even telling me what the fuck is going on." That's bullshit, because it is. And what they needed to do was build an actual reason for her recalcitrance in that moment to
you've
make
been
it
to
make
this
sense.
planet before, you've been in contact with the planet. I have some fucking reason to believe you might be in coots. And even if so, who cares? Because once push comes to shove, Captain, you're putting your ship in danger. There's no way out of this. It's a no-win situation. Just stop and let me go over to them where presumably they're going to kill me. Okay? That is option one. Option two being I acquiesce to your demands to know what's going on, which I'm saying no. Let's just assume for a second Archer's dirty. I'm going to tell you I'm the star witness in exposing this corruption, and then dirty Archer goes, well, I'm in on it and I'm going to kill you anyway. Like there's no reason. She's not rude. She's not fucking anything up by telling him.
Yeah, there's no A to B here that makes sense. She should have just told him, and her recalcitrance is never justified enough. Aside to say from like she just promised not to, or vaguely, I guess. Like
I got the plot pen out. We fix this silliness and we replace distrust slash fear, and we just say that basically she doesn't really value them, and she's not telling them because she doesn't believe that they deserve to know, or something else where you are beneath me, even though I've been acting nice and everything else. Like at the end of the day,
diplomat, I still believe that I'm better than you and that you don't deserve to know.
You're space monkeys and this is Vulcan business, and no. And then finally, you know what? You're really going the distance. I respect you now. You're willing to die. Here's why it is. It's ultimate justice. I was racist. I was space racist before for not telling you, but clearly I see now that my initial misgivings about humanity were misplaced. T'Pol has shown me that you guys, you have proven T'Pol right, that you are honorable, and ultimately there's a future with us.
And they try to butt up against that by having T'Pol have a lot of interaction with Valar about like, humans need to start and learn to trust Vulcans because we've earned their trust rather than we feel like we deserve it because we, helped them out, in the past. Like they do try to like play that element out, but rather than it all being a consequence of like Valar's like sincerely held semi-racist beliefs that she just can't trust humans with sensitive information because they're just not ready, it plays off as a fucking sideshow. And when she decides to fucking come clean to T'Pol, it's only because she'll only tell T'Pol, and then T'Pol has to go to Archer and be like...
She doesn't even tell T'Pol, though.
She doesn't even give T'Pol the truth, merely says, can you trust me? And then T'Pol says, to Archer, can you trust me? Can we just play our hunches here, please?
Which I loved.
Yes, that was cool. Like her saying, I have not asked you for a fucking thing in 10 months. I am asking for this. Please turn this ship around and head for the Vulcan ship that's trying to come to us. And he goes for it on that basis alone to say, you're right, you have not asked me for anything. I will do this.
Saved us a bunch of times, and they didn't need to say it. I mean, I've been watching 23 episodes of this. I like that Enterprise rewards continuity observations. She doesn't have to say, I've bent over backwards. I've put up with all this other bullshit. I've saved your life. Like, probably, I don't know what, at least 10 episodes was me saving the day. It's just, listen, I'm asking you for this. It's a big deal. Please. And instantly he acquiesces. That was perfect. That was great. It was just a flimsy fucking plot point that this lady's being uptight about some real two-dimensional boring shit.
And it says, I think, a lot about the parts of this episode that work, that even though the key plot contrivance doesn't actually make any fucking sense, that it still provides enough interesting shit going on with the intrigue of the planet, with T'Pol actually having good content, with herself being an interesting kind of character, and some more info in the background of Vulcans and how this shit works, that I still liked all the content we got.
The vehicle's shitty, but the destination's great.
Yeah, and it's a shame that, like, T'Pol's best moment in what feels like 2 months of watching this fucking show has to come as a consequence of a giant plot hole that a Mack truck could go through. That stinks, but it was still good.
Jumping back to the space combat, I like that Archer doesn't seem to be aware. Archer's dad developed the Warp 5 engine, or did Archer's dad build the NX-01?
The Warp 5 engine.
There's a big part, like, Archer's background is engineering, right?
That is correct.
This guy doesn't know that shooting the fucking phasers is going to rip the ship apart and warp.
Hey, phasers are new. Literally installed it a few weeks ago.
I don't. That seems like a real fucking doozy. Like, there should have been. The first thing you know about a proton pack ray or a Venkman is you don't cross the streams. Otherwise, you collapse space-time. Archer, here's this new Death Star, this death ray. Use it in warp. It's going to fuck your shit up. So, FYI. There's some other dialogue in here thrown around. Hey, there will be repercussions. This episode does a good job of correctly vilifying the villains. So when they're like, there's going to be reparations or repercussions, you're kind of like, well, whatever, fuck you. You guys are a bunch of sleaze bags. We're all right with being at odds with you, unlike fucking Dean Stockwell and some of the other bad guys that they've made a little bit too easy to identify or, understand, too motivated, too well motivated.
Yeah, these guys are dirtbags the whole time. And when they are trying to get back to their Vulcan rendezvous, instead of 1-on-1, whom they can smack the taste out of their mouths, it's 3-on-1. So we got a real problem on our hands. And that's when we get actually a pretty cool moment for continuity. And that is Enterprise, for the very first time, a Warp 5 vessel has to actually go Warp 5.
Did you think it was silly to send the Enterprise out into deep space without installing its guns?
I like the premise, though. Warp 5 is a theoretical limit. They've never actually tried to get all the way there.
But it's like Archer says, it's called the fucking Warp 5 engine. Like, cool, hey, we got some downtime while we're take the most trivial shit they've done so far. We're cataloging a fucking asteroid or, whatever we were doing on the rogue planetoid. Hey, by the way, Starfleet wants to know this big fucking deal engine that was like a huge collaboration of all of Earth to put forward. Can we stress test that real quick?
You got to bring it in first, Peter. When you buy a new starship, you've got to make sure that you treat it gently for the first 10,000 light years.
Bullshit. You get that bitch out on the fucking highway and you can
just immediately.
70.
Immediately. Okay.
I like that they go to Warp 5 and Archer doesn't even fucking like go, in all hands. Woo! All right, guys. Hey, we're going to try this Warp 5 thing, so hold on.
Yeah, we had prepare for ludicrous speed. Like, we're going for it. They get to Warp 5. They do, but it's not good enough because the Mazarites could probably go like Warp 5.5.
The piece of dialogue I'd like was like that moment of relief when they hit Warp 5 and like the shuddering kind of stops and like the ship's like, all right, it's working. Like, I would have liked some throwaway dialogue or like a look or something of Archer, like, we did it, Dad. Something to acknowledge. Because as much as the dad comes up, and especially in this episode, even like the Vulcans held us back and blah, blah, blah. Warp technology, warp technology, warp technology. My dad never got to see his dreams realized, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah,
here it
this
is.
was it's a moment where it finally happens. He got the ship to warp 5. We did it. We fucking did it, guys.
But like you said, it's not good enough. And those other fucking
Yeah.
ships are like, they're
They can't.
throwing water on the engines trying to keep them from like burning up.
I
And he's
do
like,
really. I'm the engine room of the NX-01 is growing on me. I love the submarine feel of it. I love how kind of claustrophobic it is, and that you got people like working on fucking valves and fucking
look like
analog.
like what are those called? Franklin furnaces.
Yeah, like you're on an old Navy ship.
Mm-hmm. Fire
Oh,
shooting out.
I think that's dope. Just think that that's a cool detail, and that like in this scene, it's like all super overtaxing. Trip is like desperately trying to keep this shit running, and it is not working. Eventually, they get to the end of their ability to be at warp 5, and they've got to bail and drop out of warp. So they need a plan C.
So now at this point, Villar has explained what her motivation is. She's got full buy-in from Archer, who is willing to sacrifice everybody on the ship to continue this pursuit to get her to safety. They're making futile attempts to try and radio the Vulcans and be like, hey, we need help like really bad. Maybe turning around and heading back the wrong way for 2 hours was a bad move after all, because of course, obviously it was. And Archer goes into, we need more time. I'm gonna stall him however I can. You get down to sickbay. We got a little trick
10
here.
minutes. We got to need to buy 10 minutes for the Warp 7 Super Vulcan class murder machine to show up.
What's your plan? Just now's your turn to trust me. Just, hey, go play dead in the morgue. That's all. No, you need to trust me now. The tables have turned. Off they go. 37's captain's like, all right, we're going to board you. He's like, yeah, but how fast can you go? We're going to board you. Yeah, but how fast can you go? I like that. And I like that it's him stalling, but it's also real talk.
Yeah, like, God damn it. I got my fucking ship to Warp 5 and it wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
He fucking pissed me off with this.
We're going to board you. It's just going to be me and 2 goons. This is going to be the most... These Mazarians, not good space pirates.
These guys, this is where it does fall apart, right? Like, you are just trying to buy time, but, like, offering no resistance to these 3 dudes who are storming your ship. Like, are you serious? Like, we're not going to give any dialogue or any explanation for why it, like,
not
makes
even
sense.
Have security on hand when you show up just to make sure that, like, you know, you're not bringing a bomb or other crazy shit.
No, none of that. It's just, we got to wrap it up, right? Like, let's get to the end. Okay. All right. I suppose.
Bring them in. Hey, well, you know, the thing is, here's a long, convoluted story. Shut up and tell me where she's at. Well, I was getting to that. A lot of feet dragging, which makes sense. Okay, well, she's in medbay. We'll go there. Phlox puts on a good show. You know, you're not going to hurt someone on my... if I'm going to tell my own crew members that they can't experiment on sperm slugs to save the captain's life, I can tell you guys to fuck off as well. Yeah, she's in this thing in the wall. She's being worked on. If we open the door too soon, it's going to kill her. All right, so open the goddamn thing up. We're clearly here to kill her anyways.
So all of this so that the big ruse is they shoot holes in the imager thinking she's in there. Flock's like, no, don't do it. And they're like, yeah, shoot it. And then the Vulcans show up and just, 360 no scope all of these ships with, like, just casually brushing them off. It's like their ship is huge. It's just like,
this needed to be so much more,
boosh.
man. Like, I wanted that fucking Vulcan warship to pop in there like Galactica when it was launching the raid on, what was that, New
Caprica,
New Caprica, and just fucking warping right on top of that, just boom, boom, blow one of the ships up, boom, boom, blow the other ship up, and be like, where's that little bitch ass 37's captain at? Tell him to knock that bullshit off, or I'm going to blow his last ship up.
Instead, they kind of give him a little bit of the soft treatment, they let everyone escape. But the reveal at the end, of course, is that the ambassador wasn't in the Imager.
Dun dun dun.
Like, it all just falls apart. Every piece of this falls apart. Like, oh, you just need to trust me. We're gonna have this big ruse. Instead, it's just like bitch about how your ship is faster, and then you and two of your guys show up and you damage a piece of my equipment, and she was never in there to begin with, and we never really sold very hard that she was, and now she's fine, and everyone knew she was going to be fine. It strikes of the shadows of Pajem, where they come up with just the sloppiest ending possible to try and make the plot work.
They could have just saved a lot of money and time and just said, just give you an end title card. And Archer tricked him. She was fine, and everyone lived happily ever after.
Yeah, just show a cue card. Just like Poochie went back to his home planet. Like,
we took care of what we were after, and then the 37s go to leave, and the door opens up, and of course she's there for her. Like, it stinks of the thaw where Janeway just has to get her last word. No, actually, I'm still. You know what? It feels like the fucking game we used to play where someone would cheat their way out of a kill scene, but then come and try and like rub it in someone's face. And like,
you didn't earn this.
Yeah.
You didn't earn this moment of dunking. All right. It's not like when I successfully prosecute a tribunal and get to like have that celebratory eye fuck before they have to get hauled off and executed. No, you don't get that.
You weren't smarter than me. I was just super dumbed down by the fucking plot so we could wrap the entire end of this episode up in literally 3 minutes.
And that's pretty much what happens.
It's a Scooby-Doo ending. They just rip the mask off the plot. And go, oh, she's alive. Oh, we would have gotten away for this if it wasn't, for Jonathan Archer and these pesky kids.
The Mazarites get run off. The Vulcan ship is massive. It is really big. I like the scale.
Yes.
And is hanging out. And, eventually, we're going to say our goodbyes, and the ambassador has her final like, oh, you and T'Pol, I like that this bond is formed. You two are friends. This could bode well for the future of Vulcans and humanity. And here's my last windmill handshake for you, Captain. And then does the formal greeting with T'Pol.
Off I go to help Noonien Song develop the positronic net. I would have liked, again, if we're going to continue the arc of regaining favor with the Vulcans, that the Vulcan captain comes over, or some sort of exchange of, you were brave. We're very impressed by what we've seen. Clearly leaving T'Pol on the ship was the right move, because if she wasn't here, none of this would have played out the way it did. And in the end, all the things we're doing is working towards something better. It's not enough to taint the entire episode for me, especially after the fucking turds that we've come off of. A little boring in a lot of ways, very two-dimensional even more ways, but again, the effects that the lame parts cause in character developments, worth the watch.
I overall completely agree. I feel like the parts of this that don't work is just some sloppy ass TV writing. And I don't want to tar like Enterprise too hard with this. How many fucking times did we say this about Voyager? Like, they just kind of phoned it in at the end. It's just a terrible habit of the medium at the time. Is you have this great first 35 minutes of story, and then you just don't know how to fucking end the damn thing. Seems to just be a problem with writers in this 20-year period of television. And this is just another one of the canon of didn't quite figure out what it was supposed to be, how that climax was supposed to work, but enough about it works that it was good to watch.
I want to jump back to the space battles. It's been a while since we've seen one in Enterprise. I haven't really seen anything out of Enterprise yet that looks like it's broken the bank on special effects, minus the very costly pilot.
And maybe that pilot really spent a ton of money on the effects.
And again, I don't feel that they were well spent. I think they look shitty. But they did spend a lot of fucking money on it. They almost spent like a movie budget on it. This is post Voyager. This is way post Voyager. Voyager had some fucking tight space fights. They had some stuff, especially towards the end, that looked really good. That one where Seven and Nine's whatever breaks in her head, and that's the one where each has to give his own.
Mm-hmm.
And the Delta flyers like going at it with space pirates flying around the debris of a Borg cube. They've done cool shit. So
Yeah, remember the Flesh and Blood fight when they're like fighting against the Hirogen and the holographic ship, and they're like fucking Voyager was like throwing down 3 against 1
yeah,
and
like
just crushing, and it was like really well shot and done.
so again, when the Vulcan badass warship shows up and it's just the lamest, one or two shots, and the Mazarian ships just kind of wiggle a little bit. Like, come on, man, I know you can do better than this. Do better. It's rare we get to see these space combat scenes. Give me something worthwhile.
You could have kept it economical while providing more impact, because the ship could have shown up and then it could just shoot one thunderous phaser blast at one of the ships and then have it impact, but instead of just hitting the shields and sort of hurting it like we obviously saw earlier with Enterprise's phaser cannons, instead it hits it and it fucking moves the fucking thing. You hear the clunk, and you see maybe a piece fall off, and it's like, oh, these guys, this is on a different level, and now like the fucking party's over. And
Yeah.
it's still economical. You don't have to do a lot, but just use what you're doing more effectively.
Well, we've said it before that Enterprise is just a series of shitty gunfights.
Shitty gunfights and head wounds, the Enterprise
This is
story.
just a shitty gunfight in space.
What's our next shitty gunfight?
After this, we're moving into season 1, episode 24, Desert Crossing. I don't know. There's some fucking dudes with black shit on their mouth, and they've got blankets over their head. When Archer and Trip are invited to a desert-like planet by an alien leader, they discover he is a terrorist who lured them there under false pretenses. Meanwhile, T'Pol, while in command, faces a tough decision when she cannot locate Archer and Trip in the desert.
I'm sorry that description sort of spoiled the episode a little bit, but I really like this one. The guest star is going to be very familiar to you, and he is excellently used. And I just like a lot of the premise. They build a story in this one, and I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Sounds good.
All right, and thank you so much for all of you who listen to Feature Please, and we'll see you next week.